Hello, everybody. All right, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope everybody had a nice and happy and safe New Year's Eve. As we're now, of course, into 2025 here. So I hope 2025 is everybody's getting off to a good start for the year. Um, so if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to um, to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So we're gonna give people a chance to come. We're gonna give people a chance to come in a bit. We do have another person in here at least before we talk about what's on tap for tonight. So let me at least start off by talking a little bit about what I've been watching of late. Of course, I over the past month I went back to start watching cartoons in the afternoon. You know, I call it the classic cartoon showcase, as it were. Um, so of course I started back by starting to watch the cartoons in the golden age, starting all the way back in 1928 with Dinner Time. And now I just started today just watching cartoons, animated shorts from 1932. So some interesting facts are happening around that time in animation history, as it were, in cartoon history, as of course, first off, before there was Tom Cat and Jerry Mouse at MGM, there was another duo called Tom and Jerry, who were being produced by Van Buren Productions and being distributed by RKO Radio Pictures. Started up in late 1931. Basically, Tom was a tall, thin guy, and Jerry was a short, fat guy. Now, eventually, their names would eventually be changed to Dick and Larry, but they started off as Tom and Jerry, and they were, as I said, produced by Van Buren Studios. Also, around this time, Betty Boop was starting to supplant Bimbo as the star for Fleischer Studios for the Fleischer Studios Talkatoons, um, you know, short series. Bimbo was initially, of course, the star, and then he with Betty Boop and Coco the Clown as supporting characters, and as we get through 19, and this is still a couple years before. This is still like a year and a half before the code, mind you, before the Hays Code was brought into effect, in which, and of course, a couple of years before Popeye, a year and a half or so before Popeye as well. But Betty Boop, as I said, in late 1931, started to supplant Bimbo as the star character for Fleischer Studios. So now we're coming up on 4.5 minutes here. So I guess it's a good time to start talking about what we're going to be talking about tonight. So tonight we're going to be covering some articles from Bleeding Fool, a couple comic related articles, and a movie related article, probably anime related as well. So we got first off, a former Marvel writer who worked on the Punisher is now looking to revisit Revenge at Image Comics. We'll talk a bit about that. Also, the Marvel sales spikes for the reboot and relaunch of a new Spider-Man #1 book. We'll look at that, and then we'll also talk about how Sony is looking to co-produce an anime movie called Scarlet with Studio Chizu and Nippon TV over in Japan. Plus, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up. We'll get caught up on all the stuff that happened on, of course, last night's NXT, as well as look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite. This will be the first week that AEW will not, as they end up as of last Friday canceling Rampage. So now AEW will only have Rampage or not Rampage, but Dynamite and Collision during the week. So we'll see how that goes for them. And with all that being said, of course, and of course we'll have the This Week in This Day in Each History segment as well. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then, as we're coming up on the 6.5 minute mark here. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me pull up the articles here. All right. So here we go. All right, so here's the first one we're going to look at. As soon as I got to scroll down a bit here. Former Punisher writer revisits revenge in new series at Image Comics. Article by Avi Green, published yesterday on New Year's Eve. So even Avi will work on New Year's Eve, I guess, right? Alrighty then. So let's get started. And as if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions best of my ability. I'm just gonna see if I can garner up some more folks to try to watch. A moment here. Alright, there we go. Alright, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this first article here. Some nice pictures, some nice artwork here, it would seem. So the Hollywood Reporter announced leftist writer Matthew Rosenberg, who previously worked on The Punisher, is now developing a comic at Image with a pretty long title. Now and that was Avi speaking right now. So now here's the stuff from the article he's referencing. In a comic run that was published in the mid and late 2010s, writer Matthew Rosenberg and artist Stefano Landini took the character of Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, away from his crime roots and put him deep into the Marvel universe on a mission of revenge. Revenge is still on the Rosenberg and Landini's mind, but in a very non-Marvel way, as the duo reunite for a creator-owned comic title, We're Taking Everything Down With Us. The all-new 6-issue miniseries will kick off in March 2025, so a couple months away, from Image Comics with an extra-length first issue. The story follows a 13-year-old girl named Annalise, who's left all alone in the world after her mad scientist father is killed by the world's greatest spy. Now, alongside her dead dad's robot bodyguard, Annalise has a choice to try to lead a normal life for the first time ever, or seek revenge and maybe overthrow the world order in the process. Okay, this guy obviously has some very, very big ambitions, doesn't he? Uh, this guy has some very and sounds very high on his own opinion. It would appear. Anyways, quote: "There's only so many great motivating factors in stories, and the most powerful ones are love and revenge. So when you can have a story that has both," unquote, said Rosenberg, speaking to the Hollywood Reporter from Dublin, Ireland, where another one of the creator-owned comics, "For Kids Walks into a Bank," "For Kids Walks into a Bank," okay. I don't know if that's supposed to be walks or walk, but walks into a bank, is filming as an adaptation starring Liam Neeson and Jack Dylan Grazer. Quote: "We wanted to do a pretty brutal revenge story that has a lot of love and compassion and see how those ideas touch each other." Hmm. So now Avi's response to what we just read there is, see if any. Again, if you haven't already, you guys can like and share the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. All right, so getting back to the article here. All right, so there's Avi speaking now. "It won't be the least bit shocking if it all draws from a left wing notion of what quote unquote revenge should be." All right. And if Rosenberg's got a film adaptation in the works, it figures somebody like him would get all the offers in Hollywood that a conservative likely wouldn't. Would that quote unquote world order happen to be quote unquote right wing? Well, it won't be a shock if that's what the story's a metaphor for. One more reason why the brutality in this new miniseries is bound to be very alienating. And what's this about the Punisher having quote unquote crime roots? It was already established he worked outside the law and was wanted by it, even if he went after violent criminals, who practically deserved whatever they got. The mission of revenge was also well established as being Frank's response to his wife and child being murdered by mobsters, until Jason Aaron was permitted to take even that much apart. There's nothing to be excited about coming from another modern leftist scribe who's got no love for Marvel and whom the media are sadly promoting as the best new quote unquote talent based on his politics. This new item from Image Comics only makes clear that they've long been irrelevant. All right, so there we go. That one. That one was the first and third articles are going to be pretty quickie ones. The second one, though, when I was looking through this stuff, will probably be a little bit more lengthy, a little bit more meaty. Let's see. Here we go. Marvel rebooting and relaunching Spider-Man for new #1 issue, sales spike. Article by Avi Green published today. So let's get a look at this now. Polygon sugarcoating news of where Marvel's heading next with yet another reboot of Spider-Man series and the oh-so important return of a villain who allegedly long been absent. So this is from the Polygon article. It's hard out there, even for a genetically enhanced superperson, and Spider-Man will learn it the hard way in his next relaunch. Polygon can exclusively announce that Marvel's The Amazing Spider-Man #1 from writer Joe Kelly and artist Pepe Larraz and John Romita Jr. will drop in April 2025. And we were talking about this yesterday and recently as well, where you have a lot of the longtime fans who are not happy about this. But even as Metal, I guess, was pointing out to me, I guess the sales are not showing that. But anyways, so now there's Avi's response to that. I can't say I heard of many relaunches in a new volume from #1 lately, and certainly hadn't paid much attention. But as this makes clear, the whole trivial practice hasn't gone away. In any event, this is not a reason to buy what's in store. The story merit is what matters, and Marvel's been horribly lacking in just that for a long time. While Romita Jr. at this point could also symbolize that point, since his artwork became very mediocre over the past quarter century and was thoroughly wasted on J. Michael Straczynski's dreadful run, along with the disgraced Neil Gaiman's Eternals miniseries. I'm sorry to say, but Romita Jr.'s got none of what made Romita Sr.'s art the greatness it was in the Silver Age. And back to the Polygon article then. Let's see what more they have to say. The pieces are in place for a classic Spider-Man adventure. Peter Parker is jobless. The Rhino is on the loose. And according to the editorial error there in terms of you pick one or the other, not both, people. According to Anne, one or the other, not both. An official synopsis for the book, quote, a major Spider-Man villain is working behind the scenes, weaponizing other Spider villains, including one we haven't seen in over 7 years. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn is goblin free, and that's for Kelly, Larraz, and Romita Jr. to reveal. And then here's Avi responding to that. If that's supposed to hint that Green Goblin is showing up again, we're way past the point of ability to care. Without talented writing, it's meaningless, and villains aren't the reason to look forward to this. Rather, it's the heroes and their co-stars who are, and more to say after highlighting the following. Let's see, and this is from back to the Polygon article. Based on gushing comments sent to Polygon, Kelly and Larraz are living a dream with this new Spider-Man book. Both men cite the hero as one of the first comic book obsessions when they were kids. So where do you even begin when challenged with adding to the 60-year legacy of the web slinger and his rogues gallery? Okay, and again, if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Okay. Alrighty then. Alright, so getting back to the article then. So here's Avi responding to what we just read a moment ago. I think a far better idea would be to restore a certain lady who'd been part of his legacy for many years, Mary Jane Watson. And from the lack of any mention in this article, it's a foregone conclusion they won't. Seriously, if Marvel really wanted to reverse one of the worst editorial mandates of the past 2 decades, they would have said so right out of the gate. An alternate dimension doppelganger is no substitute. And what's new about Peter being out of a job? That's nothing new at all, though surely what was most truly insulting was how several years ago, when Dan Slott was writer, there was a story Peter got a big time corporate job, but as expected, Mary Jane had no part in it. And nothing's changed in over 15 years since that notorious One More Day disaster. Some of the comments, like this one, sum up the situation pretty well. And now back to the Polygon article. As long as Paul's still around and Mary Jane and Peter aren't married, or One More Day isn't reversed, I legit don't care about buying Spider-Man comics. I agree with Linkara from Atop the Fourth Wall. If the creators aren't willing to write Peter like a freaking adult already, if they're unwilling to really let him get out of his quote unquote high school life, of not actually giving any consideration to the man over the mask and having him actually be more responsible, when the whole point of Spider-Man was that what made him popular was he was the character who faced the challenges of the real world, like managing school, a job, loved ones getting older and less able to take care of themselves, and even dying. If the writers keep failing to have him act like a bleeding adult already, then why the hell isn't he still in high school? Yeah, but the thing is, I think a lot of people, particularly a lot of the older fans, are more happier with the Ultimate Spider-Man because they have kind of restored his relationship with Mary Jane in that one, in which it takes place on I think Earth 6160 or something like that. where instead of getting bit by the radioactive spider as a teen, he got bit as adult. So, and then here's Avi's response to those comments. Well, one of the most irritating things about past conduct of Joe Quesada, in particular, is refusal to recognize that Spidey's stories weren't "quote unquote" realistic in every sense of the word, and he, for one, kept acting like Peter being married is the worst thing that could happen. I recall Roger Stern regrettably took a similar position, even as writers like him don't seem to have any issue with Superman and Lois Lane wedding, or even Third Flash Wally West and Linda Park tying the knot. What's so wrong with Peter and MJ marrying? That isn't so wrong with most other heroes and co-stars doing the same. That kind of singling out is exactly what brought down the medium. Here's another. So here's another comment in regards to the stuff that they were. Let's see. Man, I literally could not care less. I saw a fan-made character on Twitter, and reposted on Reddit because I don't go on Twitter, on parentheses, of Peter and MJ's daughter raised by Mephisto since she was sold to him during One More Day. And that idea felt more fresh and interesting and vital than anything I've read in the last decade. And I'm a GD ANAD defender. They're going to keep pussyfooting around with alternate universes and offshoots, while 616 continues to flounder rather than actually doing anything meaningful with the lemon that is OMD, One More Day. Worse, they'll tease a grand reveal or retcon only to swerve at the last second in ways they don't even make sense because nothing is stronger than editorial mandate. Yeah, and you keep eventually people are going to stop coming when you cry wolf. You keep crying wolf and the wolf's not there, eventually that's going to catch up to you. Renew Your Vows was great. I loved it. Ultimate sounds great. I'm sure I'll love it too. That said, I simply cannot be paid to give a D about the mainline book. If they're going to continue with this perpetual 23-year-old struggling to make rent shtick, it was boring when I was a 23-year-old struggling to make rent. It feels pathetic to even consider reading in my 30s. Oh boy. And then Avi responds to this by saying, what's really appalling is when news sites like Polygon take up this news without any objectivity accompanying the announcements and their own refusal to give Mary Jane any backing or ask for better editors to oversee Marvel is telling. This is exactly why One More Day has never been reversed. Now for one more reader comment. The people that did One More Day are largely still in power at the offices. It's like how Dan Didio at DC said he was against all superhero marriages, but the moment he left, a lot of superheroes got their spouses and families back. And then Avi responds here. Sadly, that's not entirely true. If Jeff Jones' recent Justice Story tale, hopefully his last story for DC, is any suggestion, even if it's ignored in the long run. What Johns wrote with Gene Loring says quite a bit. What he really thinks of DCU and its past contributors. And even today at DC, quite a few of the people involved with Identity Crisis are still running the store. Mainly because, all right, so yeah, as I recall, if I recall correctly, if Jones was the one who wrote that particular story, Gene Loring, I think, was somehow, I think she was somehow raped and killed during that story. You know, or wait, no, I think she went mad. There was some nasty stuff that happened with her and with Sue Dibney. One of them went like totally mad and just went after all the superheroes out of revenge. The other was basically raped and murdered, I believe. But arped and murdered. Hey, Rick. Thanks for popping in. If you haven't already, we can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Anyways, as we continue on here, let me see. See, where were we? Mainly because no press sources are willing to argue they're unfit for their jobs and ask they resign. Same with Marvel, of course. The press could even argue it's time for Marvel and DC to fold as publishers. But I guess for them, that's unacceptable because then they wouldn't have enough venues to push their woke agendas down the readers' throats. Though there's no reason to buy this latest pointless relaunch of Spidey, since all the signs point to a lack of interest and merit. Ditto a refusal to reverse One More Day in the 616 universe proper. As for villains, if they matter, maybe another mistake is how overly reliant superhero comics became upon costume villains. While any who could be considered more quote-unquote plain clothes, superpowers or not, have never been experimented with seriously. That's got to be one more reason why a story merit so sorely lacking. Well, Rick, I don't know if you caught any part of this, but I don't know if you heard, but they're doing a reboot of Amazing Spider-Man again. If you have any comments on that, feel free to share them. But anyways, we're gonna get to, of course, the last. I may give Rick a moment to see if he'll say anything on that, but as we're waiting for that, I will prepare for the last story we're covering for tonight, which is over in the movie TV streaming section of Bleeding Full. It's about Sony looking to co-produce an anime movie with Studio Chizo and Nippon TV. All right. I guess if he doesn't have anything to say about what I just asked him, we'll probably guess we will move on to the next article here then. The final article of the evening. All right. Sony to co-produce Mamoru Hosoda's next anime Scarlet. Article by John Pallister, published earlier today. So, Sony Pictures is set to co-produce and co-finance the highly anticipated new animated film Scarlet from Academy Award nominated director Mamoru Hosoda, who of course did was involved in Mirai, Belle, Wolf Children, with Studio Chizu and Nippon TV. Sony will distribute Scarlet globally outside Japan, with the US release earmarked for winter 2025, which I don't know if that means basically the end of this year or whatever, but Toho will release in the home market. Producers are Yuichiro Saito from Studio Chizu. Oh, there we go. You did have a comment there. I caught you about halfway through the article, so I didn't get what they are doing with the relaunch. Yeah, well, basically the basic point is that they're basically just they're not bringing back Mary Jane to the main universe. They're still just having Paul and whoever this new girl he's with as if you heard the end of the article there, as Avi put it, they're just perpetually having him as a 23-year-old struggling to make rent. No real progression, unlike in the Ultimate Spider-Man story where, they at least having him with Mary Jane having a happy family life and then getting bitten by the radio as an adult, as opposed to when he was a teenager. So anyways, as we continue on with this particular story, well, we're almost done with this. So let's see. Toshimi Tanio from Nippon TV, Nozomu Takahashi from Studio Chizu. Scarlet is described as the story of a brave princess who transcends time and space. So that's all we got for that article then. Probably the quickest of the three. But with that, so now we're done with the articles. Now we're going to move on to the wrestling wrap up. So we're going to go back to last night's NXT event. Talk about that as it's their go home event before this coming Tuesday's for this coming Tuesday's New Year's Evil event from Inglewood, California, I believe. So on last night's NXT, Kalani Jordan defeated Lola Vice after interference from Cora Jade. Cora Jade came in to attack both women, and then was confronted by Stephanie Vaquer. This whole scenario set up a fatal four-way number one contenders match for the Women's North American Championship, in which set up for that for this Tuesday's NXT, in which the four women will see who will go on to face Fallon Henley of Fatal Influence for the NXT Women's North American Championship. Ethan Page defeated Cedric Alexander after the match, breaking his hand by smashing it into a toolbox, smashing a toolbox onto it. In his continual reign of terror, as it were. All right, there we go. Then in three-way triple threat tag match. Metaphor of Jakara Jackson Last Legend defeated Gigi Dolan and Shotzi with Tatum Paxley in their corner, and Kaden Carden Katana Chance. As Fatal Influence came out to interfere in the match and help Metaphor, get the win there. And then Izzy Dame defeated Sol Ruka after Zarya came out to lend support to Sol Ruka, only to get caught up in the match by accident, having received receiving a moonsault to the outside from Sol Ruka, and then Izzy Dane hitting her finisher on Sol Ruka to get the win. The main event saw Tyson DuPont, Tyreek Igwe, and Wes Lee defeat Adrian Chance and Hank and Tank of Tank Ledger and Hank Walker in the main event of the evening. And then afterwards, there was a segment in which Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Eddie Thorpe all confronted each other. Eddie Thorpe ended up taking out both Williams and Femi, leading into their upcoming match at New Year's Evil this Tuesday, in which Trick Williams will be defending the NXT title against Femi and Eddie Thorpe in a triple threat match. So that's all of the WWE news we have for you at the moment. Actually, one other piece too. Sonny, Tammy Lynn Sitch, who had been convicted and sent to jail for after killing somebody with her car in a drunk driving incident. She was refused bail. She refused prison release. Don't know what she found reason for to feel that they would release her. But anyways, that's the other piece of. But now moving on to AEW news. As tonight from Asheville, from the Harrah's Cherokee Center in Asheville, North Carolina, AEW will be having its Fight for the Fallen event, which will be, of course, the fundraiser and to honor the victims of the hurricane this past fall. The matches set up for tonight include Orange Cassidy taking on Adam Page in a one-on-one match. The Acclaimed of Anthony Bowens and Max Caster to take on the Hurt Syndicate of Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. Jamie in a match that was set up a few weeks ago. Jamie, former AEW World Champion Jamie Hayter, will be taking on former AEW TBS Champion Julia Hart in a one-on-one match. In a Casino Gauntlet #1 spot 3-way match, I guess this is a match to determine who will get the #1 spot in the Casino Gauntlet. Roderick Strong will be taking on George Strickland, and they'll be taking on Jay White, Switchblade Jay White. The main event we'll see in a 6-man tag match the Death Riders of Claudio of AEW World Champion Jon Moxley and 2/3 of the AEW World Trios Champions Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta taking on the newly formed faction of Rated FTR. Adam Copeland coming back from injury, making his return at last Saturday's World's End event. And then FTR of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. So that's all I got for you on the wrestling wrap-up. Let's see now. So now, with today being the first day of 2025, January 1st, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in each history. History! So let me just review some things here. Nineteen 25 and 2005. Alrighty then. So here we go. So first off, we're going to head back 100 years ago. And on this date, 100 years ago, let's bring that up. On this date, 100 years ago, back in 1925, during, of course, the silent era, um, Walt Disney's Alice Cans the Cannibals and Pat Sullivan's Felix Wins and Loses. Of course, Alice from the Alice comedies and Felix from Felix the Cat. Both premiered in movie theaters on this date back 100 years ago today. So 100 years ago today, back in 1925, Walt Disney's Alice Cans the Cannibals and Pat Sullivan's Felix Wins and Loses both premiered on this date back in 1925. So, there we go with that one. Be prepared to move on here. Okay, so on this now as we move ahead to 1950, 75 years ago today. On this date, 75 years ago today, in 1950, the 80th issue of Prize Comics Western, a book that started out simply as Prize Comics, went on sale on this date back in 1950, 75 years ago today. It sold for 10 cents for its 48 pages. So on this date, 75 years ago today, 80th issue of Prize Comics Western, which started out as Prize Comics, went on sale on this date 70 years ago, or 75 years ago today. Now, as we get ready to move on to the next piece, and as we move ahead to 1955, as on this date in 1955, Bill Miller and Johnny Valentine would win the Midwest Wrestling Association American Tag Team Championships over Buddy Rogers and the Great Scott in Columbus, Ohio. The Midwest Wrestling Association, I believe, was kind of the precursor to the American Wrestling Association. That was started up by Vern Gagne when they decided. I believe that might have been one of the precursors. But anyways, on this date in 1955, 70 years ago today, Bill Miller and Johnny Valentine would defeat Buddy Rogers and the Great Scott for the Midwest Wrestling Association American Tag Team Championship. Anyways, and finally, one last piece of neat history to go over here. We move ahead to 2005, which was 20 years ago today. On this date, 20 years ago today, in 2005, let's see, AIC's Magical Cannon premiered on Tokyo MX Network on this date back in Japan. On this date back in 2005. So the anime adaptation of Magical Canon would premiere on Tokyo MX on this date so Magical Canon was based on an adult visual novel, Septem Charm, Magical Canon. Of course, for the anime adaptation, they apparently took out the pornographic content. Adult visual novels are, I think, considered pretty risque, racy. So on this date in back in 2005, 20 years ago today, AIC's Magical Canon would debut on Tokyo MX in Japan on this date back in 2005. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the first show of 2005. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. We'll of course be back here with more niche news tomorrow. And we'll be continuing to look through, and then of course don't forget this Sunday, R.J. Carter from Critical Blast will be joining me as we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in April of 1940. This week we'll be focusing in on Fox Comics, Fox feature, Fox features, or Fox Comics. Will be, of course, among the stories we'll be reading will include Fox's version of Thor, Dynamo, Blue Beetle. Let me see. Golden Knight, and then and also Yarko the Great. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.